I'm not going there.
Oh, look at this.
Ooh.
Oh, no. No, I gave you the stick, didn't you? Why would I even have it? I don't know. That's pretty hilarious. I was gonna do that lady.
I'll be asleep.
No, I'm going to, but not Bill Bragg. That'd be kind of fun, actually. And Bill Bragg presented.
How did we not see it?
Well, I kept trying to get her to send the bill over from the meeting, but she didn't.
So how late did you,
We
just got down there then.
Oh, we were done.
We just got down there. So it's like 10 and we're driving home in that ice. Well, how, from leaving this way, hour and a half.
Oh, we were going to
Saturday. I just took my time. It was like, good thing there wasn't much crap. People were complaining.
Board of Supervisors meeting in order. Roll call. Eighteen present, we have a quorum. Invocation by Mr. Undershoots and pledge of allegiance by Mr. Hampton. Please rise.
Lord Jesus, we come to you tonight thanking you for your many blessings. We pray for your blessings upon our nation, upon our state, upon our county. And Lord God, we ask for wisdom tonight that we would make wise decisions for the county. So in Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment, limit to 3 minutes per person with a maximum public comment of 30 minutes on agenda items only. Public comment. Public comment. Public comment. None being heard, public comment disclosed. Approval of the minutes of November 12th, 2024 and December 3rd of 2024. Motion by Mr. Gutter, second by Mr. Russell. Any questions or comments on it? If not, you can vote on it. Passed by majority. Public hearing, proposed community development grant, block grant application led by Emily Nelson of NWRPC. Take her away, Emily.
Thank you. I'm Emily Nelson with Northwest Regional Planning Commission. I'm a planner there, and Northwest Regional Planning Commission is assisting Rusk County in a proposed CDBG community Development Block Grant application. So the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development oversees several programs, including the Community Development Block Program, the CDBG. Established in the 1970s, CDBG provides targeted funding to support local government programs that address community needs. The state of Wisconsin receives approximately $27 million in CDBG funding annually, which can be used for public facilities improvements, housing rehabilitation, economic development, and planning. The funding being requested by Rusk County through this proposed CDBG application will be specifically for planning assistance. In Rusk County, economic and community development infrastructure remains essential to support industrial growth and residential development. In the county, there's an identified need for housing rehabilitation and the construction of new housing to accommodate individuals across all income levels. Additionally, planning assistance has been identified as a priority specifically for updating the 2009 comprehensive plan. This public hearing is a requirement of the CDBG planning grant application process. Rusk County is intending to apply for $50,000 in CDBG planning grant funds, and these funds will be used to support the update of the 2009 comprehensive plan. And to conclude, the CDBG planning grant will not cause any residential or non-residential displacement. And Mr. Chair, that concludes the overview of the proposed community development block grant application. There's now an opportunity for public input regarding the proposed project and community development and housing needs in Rusk County.
Any questions or comments from us and the public? Any questions or input from us and or the public? None being heard, we close the public hearing on the proposed CDBG application. Next up, we have a presentation, but Ms. Ashley Heath is gonna give a short introduction as to how we got here and where we're at the moment before we start our presentation with Cedar and, how do you say it, CUNY Corporation. All right, go ahead, Ash.
Thank you. So I know that we have a lot of new board members, so we just wanted to give a quick 5-minute how did we get here. So back in October of 2021, the county formed an ad hoc master plan committee. In December of 2021, that committee issued an RFP and WOLD was selected to do a facility analysis and master plan. You've probably heard that name said a couple times. They worked with the department heads and the ad hoc master plan committee to develop that analysis and master plan. And within that, the jail and the highway shop were identified as the top 2 priorities. In February of 2023, the board authorized an RFQ and an RFP for design and construction management of a jail project. In April of 23, the board authorized entering into contract with Venture Architects and Samuels Group for the jail design. And throughout 23 and now into 24, Venture and Samuels have been presenting to the ad hoc construction committee. In late summer, early fall of 2024, the ad hoc construction committee directed Venture and Samuels Group to cut down the size and the cost of the jail. The jail had been coming in the upper 30 millions, and they were directed to cut that, and then they came back with a design in the low 30s. So in October of 2024, the ad hoc construction committee recommended to this board a $33.5 million jail option and a consideration of a highway storage facility. So we went through the RFQ process. The board did approve that an RFQ for design services for a highway storage garage be issued. So we put the RFQ out and we received 10 responses back, which is really great. So these were the responses that we got back. The ad hoc construction committee spent hours last Wednesday interviewing each of the firms after going through their proposals. And tonight we have the ad hoc construction committee has invited invited 2 of those companies back to give you guys a more in-depth presentation. So we have, kicking off, that is Cedar Corporation. So if you guys wanna come on up and I'll get your presentation ready to go. While it loads, do you wanna just introduce yourselves or something? Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hi, my name is Chris Dressler. I will be the project manager on the project if you so choose to go with Cedar Corporation. And then Corey.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us. I'm the Director of Architecture for Cedar Corporation. I've been with Cedar Corporation for nearly 25 years. I work on a lot of these highway and public works type facilities, work in a lot of counties and municipalities, and I'll be assisting Chris as a technical expert on your project, and I'll be the second point of contact for you throughout this project if we're selected this evening.
So yeah, if you want to go to the next slide here. So as Corey kind of mentioned, you know, some of his credentials, providing technical support to myself and the rest of the team as well. But we kind of wanted to highlight some of the team here for you guys. You know, starting with our architectural group, we have a solid architectural group that has a designer that has a master's in architecture and is currently working towards licensure as well. So very talented and progressive individual to progressing in her career. And then also in-house at Cedar Corporation, we do have our own structural engineer on staff. Troy Peterson has 30 plus years of experience in structural design and has really developed many innovative ways to address a lot of different issues. You know, if you have soils remediation, you know, we have some questionable soils. We've done very different aspects on how to stabilize those soils for a structure of this type of nature. And then as well in our civil, we also have civil engineers on staff at Cedar Corporation. And we have Rusk has 20 plus years of experience and has done many different things with stormwater analysis and things of that sort. Along with our civil engineering in-house, we also have environmental services in-house. We have one of the very few DNR assured wetland delineators on staff that would be able to really help us identify any wetland issues that we may have. You know, and we've even talked about, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the next slide, but we have different ideas already on how to mitigate any potential wetland issues on the site. And then we also have, within our civil group, we also have land surveyor, professional land surveyor. Not that we're necessarily going to need to survey the property per se, but topographic survey, we have that in-house. We also have GIS professionals that help with traffic analysis and different things like that. And then the only portion that we don't have in-house is our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing designs with Apex Engineering, one of the top mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer services, engineered firms within the state for highway shop facilities. And Cedar Corporation has worked with Apex Engineering for hundreds of projects, and we've grown to basically be kind of one team with them as well.
A lot of names up here, and for those of you that may not be familiar with Cedar Corporation, we're down in Menominee, Wisconsin. We do have other offices throughout the state. Chris and I and Jesse in the back here are coming from Menominee. I live about an hour away from your project, currently working on 2 highway facilities. So this is kind of our bread and butter type of work. And I'm really proud to say that I've worked with the folks on this page. I've worked with most of them for nearly 25 years. So you got a solid team that's worked together and knows how to get things done. Highway shops have a lot of different characteristics that are going on. When we start getting into the sites in the highway shop, there's a lot of things that we're gonna be dealing with. Chris will talk a little bit about them. But we wanted to make sure that we ensure you that you have a good, solid team supporting your project moving forward. It's not just Chris and I coming to do the work here.
So now we kind of wanted to talk about your guys' project a little bit more, and kind of the considerations that we're looking at. As I mentioned, we identified, any of the shoreline zoning, components, that could affect the project. Based on our initial, review, I don't see a ton of, impact to us. And then, we've also, noted, any of the wetland potentials, in the area. And one of those potentials could be a factor, but, we have some ideas on how we can, mitigate that, so it does not affect, our construction or anything like that. The other, one other big thing, to kind of talk through is, the utilities, how we're going to address utilities to this building. Cause you don't wanna just kind of bring utilities from one of your existing buildings if the eventual, idea is that you're phasing this out to replace the current, highway shop and office and everything, so. Making sure we're thinking through those things, site access, reviewing how that's going to be, how the flow is gonna happen during construction, and that as well as, how your flow and function is gonna happen, for day-to-day operations. Excuse me. And as well as, making sure we're kind of looking at any potential issues, that may arise as we look at this and the future, operations. With the salt storage, making sure that we're addressing any potential issues that could arise from this project or the next phases of this project, and things like that.
Yeah, and furthermore, I would even, challenge us to go and we'll pull a DNR in, cause there's a DNR permit that goes along with salt storage. While it's not part of this project, let's get them in, talk to them and kind of start thinking about what this is gonna look like in the future. When I mentioned these projects have a lot of moving parts and a lot of different components. That's why it's helpful to have our environmental folks on staff. We were talking to, our wetland delineator today and asking her about these wetlands, cause there's some pocket wetlands on your site. They're identified on the DNR website, and while they may not be concerned, those are gonna have a 50-foot setback. How do we handle that? How do we address it? Well, we could possibly get an artificial exemption, or an exemption for artificial wetlands. And we're kind of showing our hand here a little bit tonight for the next folks that'll be coming in here. But, we think those things are important, is to identify the issues before we get to them, have options as we come to your board meetings and talk to all of you, because the last thing somebody wants is a surprise. And that goes back to that whole master plan. You had a master plan that was developed by Wolf. We talked a little bit about it tonight in your update. We're gonna review that. We're not gonna go and reinvent that master plan. You've invested time in it. Our original proposal, we're going to come in and evaluate your master plan and then take another run at it ourselves and come up with our recommendations. What we're gonna do this time with our revised proposal is talk through, find alternatives. If we think there's something that doesn't quite look right or we need to reevaluate, we'll bring it up, we'll talk about it, and then we'll look at what options we have. This is all about taking a good look at this, because we wanna set you up for success. This is gonna be a 75-year facility. For those that were at the last interview, you heard me say that a few times, it's all about setting you up for success, because this facility has to be low maintenance, long lasting, and at the end of the day, we're all stewards of the taxpayer dollars, so this is really important, so I highlighted just a few things here. Our revised proposal that was presented to, the committee at the last interview does include all of the items on the left. I just expanded a little bit more from that proposal, just so you can see some of this. We're still gonna be meeting with the shareholders and interviewing staff. We're gonna be going on tours. We're gonna look at planning based on, what Wold recommended in that study and what came back from the ad hoc committee on that. We're gonna assume there's on-site utilities. There may be an option, maybe we go over to Walmart, pull utilities in, maybe we look at an option to loop water through the site. We'll evaluate that, we'll talk about it, and we'll review that and come up with a solution. We're assuming that the city's not gonna push back on zoning or setback changes there because of the water, in the area, but we'll evaluate that, have that discussion. We're gonna develop a site plan right out of the gate. We're gonna come at you with 3D models and show you what this building can look like. We're gonna talk about, a precast building versus other types of construction, so that way you understand what those costs are. We're gonna make our recommendation. We're gonna give you the information to make the decision. We're gonna prepare that final design, estimates and specifications, and get you out to bid. We're gonna get the regulatory approvals from DSPS and DNR, and then we're gonna have that fire protection, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC design in hand to go to bid. Bidding services in that last proposal, we just included that as a T&M because it wasn't requested in the RFP as we look further into the revised services. That's a pretty basic service. Typically, that's in that $10,000 to $15,000 for us to do that. And we can include that into the contract admin, or we can work through that. That's not a problem. Off to the right-hand side, these are all the things that we had in that original base proposal. So if you're wondering why we came down in the price, well, there's a lot of added effort. It's everything on the left plus everything on the right. And we can pick and choose if you so choose. If you wanted something from that, if you want us to take a look at something, we can certainly do that. Prime example, we're gonna go on facility tours. We'll probably pick a day. In our original proposal, we had 2 days. No one said a lot more. But we'll have another slide that talks about tours here, so if we go to the next one. This is really where the rubber hits the road and why we were able to revise our proposal. If the county so chooses, we can we'll attend the pre-con. We usually administer that. We're a full service firm. We handle construction day in, day out. That's what we do. A lot of times we're setting those up, administering those pre-construction meetings. I like to be on site. That's something that we've kind of have in our culture, is we want to be on site during construction. We want to see those issues before they arise. So we originally have bi-weekly in-person construction meetings and site visits. We're going to be there monthly. We'll be there as needed. And some of that's going to depend on the contractor we get, right? We get a good contractor that we have experience with. We know what they're doing. They communicate well. We're not going to have boots on the ground nearly as much. We're still gonna review the RFIs and change orders. We're gonna have one submittal review. What I've seen is some of these contractors come back and they're gonna have multiple submittals, they can't get it right. We'll talk about it if that comes up, but, let's plan on this and let's move forward. Monthly site visits, we'll have boots on the ground, pay application reviews, and punch list. I pulled out, the coming up and speaking to the board at every monthly meeting. We can write a memo and get that back to staff, and they can update the board. If you want us to have your board meetings, let us know. I like to be in person. That's just the type of person I am. And I think there's value because it allows people to ask questions, and I like that two-way communication. But this is kind of that pulled back version with our revised proposal. So, Chris will talk about schedule here.
Yeah, so, based on, kind of the RFP and everything, we kind of looked at, what we thought it was gonna take, to get your, project up and running. We have availability to get this thing up and running right away. So we'll be looking at, doing our kickoff meeting in January. Scope and existing conditions, getting the topo, getting our geotechnical stuff coordinated there. And then from there, we go into the preliminary design, where we, take those tours of those two facilities, put together that conceptual design based on what, the original, Wold, study, showed. But, kind of evaluating that, making sure that it works on the site and works for what the county wants here. Excuse me. Then we go into, final design, where we, put together our final documentation, and go and get, all the required permitting, from, DSPS and as well as, the DNR. And that would happen in March, starting in March here. And then from there, we would, look to, getting into that bidding, however, if the county wants to do the bidding themselves, or if they want us to do it, we'd be looking at, going through that about May of next year, and then getting into construction, in around July, once we get bids back and contracts all put together. It's typically a couple month process. So in July, getting started with our construction services and contract administration. From there, we looked about a little less than a year for construction. This project, pretty straightforward in the grand scheme of it. Don't feel like it's gonna extend out much beyond that. So we're looking at basically, getting you guys substantial completion and occupancy in May of 2026.
So I'm actually working on almost identical project for St. Croix County right now. And we were selected to be the architect. I did the study and now we're doing the design. We went through a RFP process for construction managers. And through that process, we were able to pull the schedule down from 12 months of construction to about 6, or actually 7 months of construction. And what that does is anytime we can shorten that duration of construction, we're gonna pull that cost down. And there are caveats to that with weather and things, but in this case, it worked that we're able to pull that cost down and shorten the duration, get them into the building. And that's something that we'll be looking to do for Rusk County here. If we get this project, we're gonna evaluate the schedule first and foremost, determine where we can get the best bidding opportunities, where we can secure materials, lead times on materials. So for example, we bid in May, we award in June. They got about 8 to 12 weeks for precast. If we go to a precast building, that sets you up for success this fall. Keep that building enclosed so you're not experiencing extensive winter conditions. And then we can perhaps pull that completion date up significantly on the project.
So, some of the details that we review that really make the difference in your guys' project. We're gonna look at our services where we are providing alternate design analysis, where we're actually coming in with different ideas on materials, different ideas on building configuration and function and flow. And bouncing that off of, the shareholders of the project. And as we kind of mentioned before, we have that assured wetland delineator on staff, ready to go as soon as, we need to. And then we have a whole team, that provides that environmental assessments that can include, coordination of geotechnical investigations. If you needed any sort of historical or archaeological assessment, as well as any hazardous material assessments if we come across any questionable contaminations in the soils or things like that. And then, once we get into actually before we even get into construction, we have the topo surveying all, in-house and everything. And then as well as once we get into construction, we can provide those staking services to make sure that the contractor has everything aligned correctly. There isn't much interior design with your guys' project, but It's still something that we provide as part of your project, to make sure that this is a facility that's going to help you recruit and retain employees, and keep the health and well-being of your guys' staff, you know, at the forefront. You know, along with that, we have planning, and GIS analysis, available, you know, planning and zoning. We have professionals that deal with zoning day in and day out, and, they know how to, read these different zoning requirements and how we can kind of leverage certain things in zoning, for your guys' project. And then, you know, if we need to do any sort of traffic analysis, you know, coming out on Highway 27, you know, can get a little busy every once in a while, so, wanna make sure that we're not, causing any, issues, for you guys getting out and taking care of those, highways.
I think the thing that comes, you know, we talked about the details that make the difference. These are all things that we have in-house. And really what it boils down to, it's not an additional service. If I have a question on environmental, I'm gonna go over, I'm gonna talk to Matt. Matt, you know, this is what we're dealing with. Do you think it's an issue? I've even been out on site and I grabbed a baggie of dirt and I brought it back. I'm like, you think this is something we should be looking at a little closer, or take a picture, show them? Those are it's just a soft sell that we have that we're able to offer our clients, and that's a differentiator that I'm really proud of for our firm. So. And then off on the side, there's a lot of things in buildings and a lot of things in site that folks that maybe haven't, you know, constructed a building or designed a building, maybe never thought of. We're gonna offer you those options and alternatives and talk about it. That way you can make the decision on what you want in your building, and we'll give you the, you know, here are the pros and cons of each. Here's the cost impact, what that might be. Okay. And then facility tours, so we just highlighted a few counties around Rusk here. Washburn's got a newer shop, Burnett's got a newer shop, Barron's got a newer shop, and St. Croix does as well. We're working on a new satellite for St. Croix. We just completed a new shop for the city of Menominee that we can go tour. That was an expansion and renovation. We can go up to the city of Barron. We just did a new highway shop up, or a new city shop up in Barron, so we can go look at that. That is gonna be the most valuable thing that we can do for both the staff and the committee. Learn from what everybody else did wrong and what everybody else did right. Don't make those same mistakes, but, you know, take the lessons learned and take them back to your shop and your new facility. Like I mentioned, we're about an hour away. Some of us are with Ed Cedar are probably about 90 minutes away. But that's gonna make those in-person design meetings, those construction visits, that much easier, that much more valuable to us. As you can see, we highlighted the other offices that we have around the state. We do serve a large area, but this is a nice project for us because we can be up here within, you know, 60 to 90 minutes, and we really appreciate the opportunity to come work with all you, work for you, and in the county. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, sure, yeah, I got a couple. In your original quote, you had like a 390K and you dropped it down to 250. And then you've got a statement in there about you'll bill us hourly. Is this number a not to exceed number?
Yeah, based on the services, if this is what we would include in that revised proposal, and I wrote some notes in here because I figured that question would come up. We had 5 monthly site visits. If that extends out, we'll talk about that when we get it, you know, before we get to that point. I don't like surprises, I don't like extras, and I don't expect our clients to either.
So if you did the 250, again, is that a not to exceed number? Even though you're billing us monthly at an hourly rate?
Yeah, it would be unless the services, the scope changes.
Okay, and how often does the scope change?
Varies by project, yeah.
And how often do you go over?
Generally,
If this is a not to exceed number though, there's no overage, right?
The only reason there would be an overage is if we add site visits or something that would not be included into the contract, and we would have that outlined in the contract for certain. So yes, well, we typically go lump sum. On this, what I did is I put a lump sum for the design, and I just did the contract administration hourly. So, that way if it comes in less. But yeah, that would be a not to exceed.
Okay. Can you put that in there?
Yeah, we would, because in addition to the proposal, we'll have an agreement, and we'll define all these, services that we're doing, line items, and then we'll have, similar to what I had in the proposal, that same thing, and yeah, we will put not to exceed in there.
Okay.
Anybody else got any questions? Mr. Goods?
Question is, if we do the precast, would that be 4 or 6 foot sidewalls?
So if we're going to a precast, what I'd like to do is evaluate what time of year the plank is gonna show up and when the contractor wants to erect that plank. So if it's precast, it's typically gonna come out of Eau Claire or the Minneapolis region. Sometimes, it's probably not gonna come from Green Bay or Milwaukee all the way up here just because of trucking. A lot of times what we do is we'll go down 4 foot, it'll actually be 5 foot to the bottom of the footing, and they'll put the precast right on the footing, the foundation, and then a backfill. It eliminates the need for a stem wall. If they wanna get the site work, or if we design so the site work is completed, we'll go with a 4 foot frost wall, get them up to grade, and they can get that whole thing ready to go. But the precast would actually be right at the, just below finished floor, so you wouldn't have any walls above finished floor. You would have your precast going up. The advantage of precast is we can put embeds in it. I think one of the things that I mentioned to you is putting embed plates in. We can put channels on there, and then you can come in and put shelving on later if you want to store, you know, the buckets or a grapple bucket or mower, flail mower for your skid steers and things. You can get that up. You can put your plows up above. So there's a lot of different benefits to the precast.
One other question is, on doing the overhead system for water, you know, fire protection, is that water or is that a dry system?
So with this building, what we would typically recommend is a precast building with bar joist metal deck. The insulation would be on top of that metal deck with a membrane roof. A lot of people don't like membrane roofs, and I could probably talk to you all night about the pros and cons of that, and we could go around, but the fire suppression system within the building would be a wet system. There are concerns about that, you know, around doors, because somebody forgets the door open, a door goes open, what do we do with that? There could be temperature alarms, and there's different ways to address those concerns so you don't have a freeze up. And then careful design, so they're not getting caught by equipment if you're raising equipment up and things.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions?
Did you, by chance bring a picture of, so that everybody could kind of see what we're looking at as far as the building? Just curious.
Do we have our old zip drive?
I did not. Maybe.
It would be similar to one we just recently designed, and if I have it in the proposal, I can point you to that. Is it okay if I just walk around and show this, or if
Yeah.
people want to
Sure,
look at
if
it?
there's a page number, I could also pull it up.
Oh, perfect, 16 and 17 if you would, please. On the original proposal. Yeah, I made sure we passed along some references to, about 90% of our work is repeat customers, and, you know, this is one of them. We've been with the city of Menominee for nearly 50 years, or 50 years now. This is a precast building, budget was $4 million, and I'd have to look back at the exact dollar amount, but I think it came in probably closer to 3.9. I'd have that information at the office. Precast wall panels, metal bar joists and metal deck with insulation above. Wash bay with an underbody wash, and then they had another storage bay off This is Barron, this is a precast building as well. I don't know why it kinda shows up as stained, it's just kinda grainy in the top of the picture, but this is a new facility just up the road from their county highway shop. Again, precast, same construction. We've been finding that we can design the precast buildings very competitively to compete with the pre-engineered metal buildings. And you get a building that's 100 years, that's gonna last 100 years, it's concrete inside and out, the insulation is sandwiched between the concrete layers, and the nice thing about it, it's durable, but you have that inner core of concrete. Once that gets heated up in the winter, it holds its heat, and you have just a kind of a heat sink there, so just a much better performing building all the way around.
I have a question. What is the size of this building in Rusk County that you're talking about?
So this building right now, they're looking at 24,000. Chris and I have looked at this, we believe that within your budget, we can get closer to 32,000. And I believe that was evaluated in the Wold study. We're fairly confident in that.
I'm just curious for the other people here that haven't seen it, was there also a picture, if I remember right, where, cause the design is kind of like, there's gonna be basically kind of two big doors, right? And then there'll be like diagonal parking for the trucks.
Yeah.
How it'll work is that they'll pull in, and they have the option to, I mean, they don't have to take out their plow.
We can show you an example of that. If you go to page 20, this is a design we did down in Kiel. It didn't show up real well, but you can see how the diagonal parking is. And what we like to do with that, once we get into design, is we wanna go out and meet with the crews. We wanna just paint, I like to do it just out on the pavement, paint some marks so they can, if you're on the dual wings, single wings, and plows, you're on the tandems or quads, you can see how big this equipment is on any given stall. It works much better. I've seen a lot of designs where they keep the angle tight, you can stack them in a little bit more. I tend to prefer to have that angle a little flatter, because you're not backing out in the corner. And let's face it, we got a lot of new people in the workforce, and not as many years behind the wheel, so anything we can do to make it easier and safer is better.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. What about those trucks now, when they get put in there, if they could have just like a cow and a barn, they could put the same stall all the time?
That's a question that comes up from different public works and highway departments. That's totally up to the county and your operations. We can make suggestions, but what I like to do is come up with a design that perhaps, if we go to a double drive lane here, that one side of that might be a little bit narrower, and we can pick up some efficiency in the structure, because you're gonna have a number of smaller patrol trucks, you're gonna have registered, and then you kind of plan that in the design. Likewise, you try to land in some of those bays, because we're gonna be pulling trailers in and out, so you don't have to back those trailers up as much. That equipment's gonna change, and one thing I can guarantee you, over the next 50 years, there'll be a lot of change going on in that building and how it's used. So we wanna make it as flexible as possible, so, probably starting out, it may be some of the same, but I expect it would transition.
So one thing I just wanna add to that is, the one thing that, we make sure that we're never gonna have to pull out 5 different pieces of equipment to get one piece of equipment. You're always gonna be able to get any individual piece of equipment that you guys need at any given day, out at that time.
And I've looked at designs too, where you have drive-through bays and different things. They all work, and part of it's preference, but if we can minimize the number of door openings, maximize the amount of storage, just because you have a drive lane there, you're still gonna store stuff in there. It's just what you're gonna store. So some of that's gonna ebb and flow as you use the facility from winter to spring to fall, depending on operations that are occurring within the county. If it's ditch mowing season or brush cutting season.
Now, this building will be designed and built for expansion, correct, down the road?
That's something that needs to be evaluated a little bit more. Yeah, I tend to recommend that, they're designed for expansion. It's just a matter of where that expansion occurs and how that's designed. If we know we're gonna expand on the sidewall, we're gonna introduce a set of columns and beams rather than attaching the beam to the wall. Precast has a spanner beam that goes around the perimeter. If we know we're gonna pop out a couple panels, we're gonna put a beam and column in. And the nice thing about precast, you take those panels out and you move them to the new exterior wall. It's a pretty simple system. Yeah, and pretty much everything we design is designed with the intent of expansion. It's just, hopefully we got it planned correctly. That's the big thing, is the phasing and sequencing and have future planning.
Question I have too, then I'll leave you alone. What about in-floor heat for this part of the country to help dry the trucks off at night?
I've been doing highway shops for 20 years, and that's a tough question because a lot of people have strong feelings about it. Personally, if I'm working out there and I'm storing equipment out there, I don't know that I'm gonna wanna have heated floors. I would encourage you to look at a combination of unit heaters and infrared overhead heaters. I like the tube heaters. I have them in our town shop. The things are 30 years old and they still work good. To dry the floors, a lot of times what I'm seeing is large diameter fans. That works best to dry those floors and get that equipment dry. In-floor does a lot of the same things. The drawback is you have the heat mass there. You open the doors, you have nothing really heating that air or other objects. You're waiting for that floor to come back and bring the heat back up into the building. So, there are good things with in-floor, but there's also some things that are more challenging with in-floor.
Tube heaters, they got pretty small guns too.
Yeah, some of them.
They don't require much.
Nope.
Right.
They even have the smaller ones that, what I've seen used is they'll put them every bay, you'll have a small square one. I don't care for them, I like the long tube ones. I think less parts, less moving pieces is probably a better thing. Less connections.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we're gonna keep things moving here. Is there any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you all for your time and the opportunity, we certainly appreciate it.
Justin, would you mind grabbing them from the hall?
Yep.
You're up.
Thank you. John just ran to the washroom, so.
Nice to do that. So,
And there's a PowerPoint in that flash drive, were you able to pull that up?
Oh, okay, yep.
How's everybody's evening? Yeah, you enjoying it so far? We come with information, that's a good thing. You can take one
Oh,
and pass around that
absolutely.
one. I'll watch to make sure you don't skip any.
One of them's got a number on it. No, I
feel like I'm standing in front of the most important people. No audience. I'm just kind of staying off to the side.
Sure.
We're ready, you're ready.
Okay, just tell me when to click through.
Yeah, next slide, please. Well, thank you for having us, CUNY Architects. I'm John Wallenkamp, been with the firm for over, a lot of years, this is my 34th year. I can tell you from day one, we started in this business and we keep growing and expanding, and it never seems to amaze me of all the time and effort individuals put into looking and looking for a firm to help them out.
Yeah, John Schmidbauer, also, I've been working with CUNY Architects for 34 years. Just a few months short of John, we came to work for our founder. Robert CUNY founded the business in Kenosha County in 1959. And John and I came to work for him, younger, more hair, and so forth, but tons of energy. We still have the energy. But 30 years ago, I think we started our kind of our long history of highway and fleet facilities for the project in Kenosha County that's still a very functional building. And that really led us to this kind of road of this type of project. Many projects, we'll get to that in a little while here. The other people on the screen there that you see, the folks in our office are a talented group of people that support what we do and have been working with us for quite a number of years. And that's all the internal office. So John's an architect, I'm a structural engineer, and then our staff supports that part of the project. And then we've got consultants that we work with, Root Engineering that does the mechanical, plumbing, electrical, fire protection design for our projects. And TerraTech Engineering does the site civil work for our projects.
And the most important piece to take off this slide is from start to finish, I will be the project manager for the team. So from our firm, from the programming phase, all the way through construction documents phase, to bidding phase, through construction phase, it's myself that you see as part of your project team. So as we go through the presentation, you'll see that, but it's not handed off to a different group. And we will point that out as we go through the presentation, why we feel that's very important. Next slide, please. List of experience, we work all throughout the Midwest. Currently in your area, we're working for Vilas County, Burnett County. The nice thing is when we start working for different municipalities, we don't stop. We started working for Burnett County like 6 years ago. We're on our 5th project with them. That tells you one thing. We've done a very good job for them and the citizens of Burnett County. You don't get repeat business if you don't do what the client wants. So very important, we listen and give you what you want for your project. In a handful of projects, I can go through all the municipalities and counties that we don't stop working for. And that's just hats off to us, but also the team that looks at and really values a quality product when they see it. Next slide, please. Your project, you kind of gave a beautiful highlight of it over in the beginning. We like to say you're looking at it the right way. In the RFP, it talked about you want us to still look at that programming and planning. We feel we bring a whole different synergy and review of programming and planning that will help you provide a facility for the residents that will pay for itself for the life of the building. It's totally different than most people look at, but our goal is our facility will help pay for itself through efficiencies, through every day an employee works in that building.
And that was a method of doing these projects that was, 30 years ago when we started doing these types of projects, it was kind of groundbreaking. It was unheard of to spend so much time or attention to the program of the project and really not just saying, here's a list of things I need, let's put them in a building and away you go. It's very important to look at operations. It's very important to look at the interaction of all the different departments and employees and staff and how things come and go from the site, in the building, all of that, all those little things come together to just produce a much more efficient and successful project.
And our goal as a team in bringing the expertise is, we're pulling knowledge that we've used for all the years into your operation to help bounce those off of you, to see why it will work, why it won't work, why we should implement it, why maybe in 20 years we'll do it, but setting up your program, your master plan today for a full build up for 75 years. These are not developer type buildings where you build it for 10, 15, 20 years. This is a 75-year building. Most people do not look at that. They think, well, we can do another addition. So if you go in 20 years and say I need to put an addition onto this building that's not part of a master plan, we as a group did something wrong. John touched on it a little bit. The reason our success is we do it so often in the beginning, we get in and we'd see these programs on the highway commissioner's desk. This was done in 1987, this was done in 92, this was in 2000, $20,000, $50,000. We started piecing it together. We wanna build buildings. Municipalities don't wanna spend money just to put a binder on a shelf. So our goal is, how do we come up with a formula to make sure the community can build what they want and need? Next slide. Your site, the bright blue in the middle is your current operation. The orange is just depicting 24,000 square feet of what your program is asking for. It's not telling you where it's necessarily gonna go. These are just pieces of the puzzle that we're gonna start working with. The white on the right is your no fuel island. The green on the bottom is forestry and rental and ambulance and then different salt shed stations. Our goal is to look at this entire complex and lay it out so we know exactly every movement for the next 75 years. We know you got an X budget for this, and we'll get into the budget, what we're gonna do today, what we can do in 20 years, 30 years, whatever. This site will be designed for that when we're done with the program. So there's no guessing later on.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're gonna wanna look at is who all uses this facility. If you've somebody got a report of some people, looking around the site earlier tonight, that was us. We got here.
I tried to check it.
We just kind of took a look around and that's what we want to get into. We noticed that the fuel island gets used by multiple different people. We really want to come here and spend the time and learn what's happening here, because that's gonna, give us huge opportunities on how to put this thing together later on.
Next slide. Discovery process, that's what John just started touching on. We are gonna dive into every possibility, every user, and also feedback from the public. Workshops, maybe before a board meeting, we have a workshop to bring the citizens in so they understand. Bottom line is, when you go to present this project and approve it as a board member of whatever dollar amount is, the answer should be, how fast can we do it? It shouldn't be, if you're debating the cost at that time, the process wasn't done right. The process of building up in the knowledge for everybody is done way in advance. So really, voting time only comes back, you know what, CUNY's done this, they showed us all the efficiencies, we just need to get this thing going.
So one of those keys is getting the information from every user group and every stakeholder that there is, no matter how it's done. And everyone we've worked for does it a little differently. Some people are more comfortable and thinking more about on a staff level. Like John said, a big workshop. We have everybody come in and you bounce ideas off the wall and you learn all this, and we're soaking that all in like a sponge. Other groups that we work with, maybe some mechanics or drivers or other people are more comfortable like just coming up to us on a one-on-one level. We'll work with you to find out how that is gonna all get structured. Not to take, a lot of people's time, but we wanna put it together so that we can get the most out of that process, and that helps us learn a lot.
So we spend days and hours just within the facility and observing, and just letting individuals come up to us and kind of then bouncing ideas and kind of getting the core group you want us to report to, but also making sure every employee is also heard in some vein. Next slide. Design process. Everything we do nowadays is in 3-dimensional. This is huge because it takes the guesswork out of looking at a drawing on a sheet of paper and like, I don't even understand what the doors swing mean, you know? It takes that guesswork out that you know exactly what you're getting when we draw it and we talk to you about it. So it's like a video game. You can get in there, we can bring up the computer, walk you through, show you the parking stall, see how the plow is gonna work, you know, the wings, how, every movement we can show you in the computer to make sure, cause I can tell you, that's the number one thing you're gonna hear. The building's too small. Building's too small. The truck's not gonna fit, the plow's not. We can help you understand and show you those movements within the computer. So the day we build it and you pull the trucks in there, they fit and they fit perfectly like we presented to you.
One of the other components of this process is, it's at the bottom bullet there, existing facility tours. We wanna do some field trips. And we can show in real life a lot of what these things look like. And so you get a feel, or whoever gets a feel of, when we say, you know, this much space is needed for this type of vehicle or this piece of equipment, you can see it, you can say, and you know, and you get that understanding with us, so that there's a confidence level and that they understand and everything fits properly.
Next slide, please. Creating an environment, it's huge. Individuals work in this building more than they are awake at home. It's crazy to think about it, but if you think about your 8-hour, 9-hour, 10-hour shift, whatever in the facility, you're there in the daylight more than you are at home. We want to create environments that work for the individuals that work in there, and safety. So whether it's how the vehicle park it, how to wash it, literally everything, how we eat lunch, we are gonna kind of bring that environment together and make it work to you as one full package.
How to walk from the locker room to the vehicle so that you're not crossing dangerous areas in traffic. All of those things will go into play.
Next slide. Design phase, this is where we really have taken all that knowledge and we throw it into what we call the project manual. That's the big drawing set, the manual book that goes out for bids and the bidders. This is the fun process that we've taken all that knowledge and put it in there to make sure you get the best dollar value possible for the project. And our track record shows we know how to put those together. We know how to manage it, we know how to put it together so you get the best project. We help you through all the review process.
No, so all of those people on that, one of those first slides that, you know, as they work on these projects, the way that things now are done technology-wise is we're collaborating in this building model that we're creating for you at, you know, in real time. So when the electrical engineers work in placing outlets, placing lights, putting equipment in there, we can see that happening in live time. When I'm putting in my structure, when I'm putting in joists and beams and columns, and that they see that happening live as well. So what it does is it eliminates those, well, I thought it was there, now it's not there anymore. You know, everyone can see what everyone else is doing. And it creates just a much better project.
And construction phase, it's crazy. Most people hate this phase. This is the phase when you were a little kid playing around with a dump truck. What did you want? This is it. This is the fun part. Construction phase of a project, if you've never been involved, or if you have, most people think it's been a disaster. They should be the best part about it. Construction meetings, if they're over 45 minutes, we didn't do our project, our week prior right, or the drawings right. Construction documents are the #1 problem to issues on site. Everybody can complain about the contract. If you don't have a good manual, you're not gonna have a good project. Bottom line. This is where it's fun, building the building that you guys help the input to create and let the community see what you're getting for your money. Sustainability, you know, we'll touch on that with you. All our buildings are sustainable. It's really what level the county wants to hit. We will show you that. We get awards from the Focus on Energy for baseline designs that we do, and we've been named one of the top designing of the facilities, just doing it right and keeping it simple. These buildings do not need to be overcomplicated.
And we're familiar with, you know, with all these different things that you may be hearing about. Not everything is gonna make sense for this project. What's very important to us is to make sure that there's, if you're gonna explore some sort of a sustainable element to this project, that it's got a payback for the county in a short period of time. It's gotta make sense for this group. Next slide.
Why CUNY? It's pretty much, we feel we're one of the few that can offer a process that puts together a building project design that pays for itself through efficiencies. We feel by listening to our clients that we've had, that years prior, we were sitting and interviewing with them, listening to their feedback saying, you guys gave us exactly what we asked for and always listened to us. The number one thing is that's it. Payback analysis, we will give you exactly what this building is gonna give you in a payback analysis. Meaning, how much time are we saving? And it's not gonna save you getting rid of employees. That's never what it is. It's giving time to employees that they don't have right now to do their job that they wanna get done. So it's giving that extra minutes every day to give time to things maybe you're outsourcing. We look at literally everything to try to tie it together and how it can save you money to give you a payback. This is real quick efficiencies. You know, whether it's an auto wash or a manual wash. Right off the bat, most people say we don't need an auto wash. Well, I'll tell you what, if I can save 15 minutes of everyone's time after a snow event, and maybe we do, we will literally analyze every one of these points: bulk, water fill, mechanic to separation, you know, air to water, reels to vehicle parking. You know, people may think, well, what does that even mean? Well, you know what? If I gotta walk 30 more steps to go get an air hose and then try to pull it through it's wasted time. So we have a whole list of bullet things that we go through with you from day one and say, you know what? These are our target points. We're gonna try to make this most efficient building possible. What other items do you think we can incorporate? So we'll work with you and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. These are the efficiencies that I'm talking about. This thing, I can tell you, blows your mind when you're done. And I go back to clients that we've done this for 10, 15 years, and they say, John, you guys way underestimated this time. You told us 20, but I'd rather be way low than way high. Next slide.
There's two more slides.
Yeah, it's the same type of thing, but it's like an inventory list that we see on your project. We've been day one with you and kind of started looking at it. Cost of construction, the group that wasn't part of the original group, you guys are sitting really well on your $7 million for cost of construction. I can tell you, most of the time we come to interviews, that number's been underestimated. If you look at the very first, the building costs, I think I have like at $5.5 million. It's the second line on there. You're in a good position for cost of this building at the $7 million full construction. Since the prior interview, I took it one step farther. I want to say, okay, we want to make sure that the area, the trends, everything meet. If you go to the next slide. So we took a previous project that we have active right now that was just bid about 3 months ago and broke it down to see exactly, okay, are we on target for Rusk County at the 24,000 square feet? And you can see there again, it shows at the 5.6 million. So we think you're sitting really well, which is a good thing, because maybe there's other things that you were thinking about with forestry or, you know, that we can look at that master plan, and we would highly recommend bidding certain things as alternates to make sure the whole process you go through, you don't say, oh, well, we got, you can always put 500,000, but there again, if you got one kick at this, maybe you try to get everything in there at the 7 million, or you just don't have a project that high. So, next slide. What I'll say to that is, we didn't get into this when we submitted the RFP. So I gave our proposal based on $7 million. If we start off this project right off day one, and we know it's 6 million, that fee goes down by that %, okay? If the county comes and says they added to 8, we don't go up. So this is a fixed fee that can only go down. Does that help? This is a fixed fee that covers everything. There is no escalation cost. There is no travel cost. You will never not know we aren't local. You won't know. You're never gonna hear a kind that says, we can't come up, we can't. We are as local to you as if our office was literally downtown. Now, you might say that that's impossible. I would just tell you, reach out to our private clients. That's all I can say. They don't have any reason to lie to you or mislead you. Our projects, we would not be here today if we couldn't fully service you, because I can tell you, once we start working for Rusk County today, we will not stop. We will not stop. It takes a lot of work to get a relationship with any municipality or anybody. Why would you stop that? The only reason that stops is if you didn't provide the service the county asked or the municipality asked for. We've been blessed, we've never been in that position. Nor do we ever want to be in that position. So we wouldn't come here tonight saying we could service the county on this type of facility if we couldn't do it. Next slide, please. Oh, discussion. We do have a lot more of the slides, but we're trying to limit to the 20 minutes and make sure we get questions and answers. So with that.
Any questions? Mr. Russell?
Could we get a copy of the financials that you did to justify a building that showed the payback?
Oh.
Can we get a real life one?
On your building?
No.
Oh, a previous one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I
no
mean,
problem at all.
you can swag it on our building, but there's no way to know that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can give you a previous new stuff. Matter of fact, the one that's in that slide, pull back up, you'll see a pie chart.
One more.
Yeah, not a pie chart, I want to see a pie chart.
Oh, I'm just saying, I can give you the feeding documents that took this one. This was a 250 acre for Des Moines, Iowa, that we did and analyzed for their entire, and showed the payback. But we will give you one comparable to your facility.
Okay.
Yep, no, great.
So this building is, how big are we talking?
24,000 square feet.
That was from the previous study.
Yeah, the RFP asked for a 24,000 square foot storage facility.
Correct. Anybody else questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. On your wash bay, is there any, we have a lot of trouble with our trucks, our salt trucks and stuff, that they rust out so quick. They don't last that long, and they said they can't get inside underneath the truck. Wherever there's hollow tubing or anything like that, the salt just, they can't get it out, and it eats them right up.
Yeah.
Do you have anything more than a car wash handle here?
Yeah, so that's why I was saying we heavily look at a form of a manual hybrid auto wash. You know the price of a vehicle, every truck that comes through here, you guys approve the cost, right? If we can extend the vehicle life by 2.5 years, it easily pays for as much automation in the wash as we can do with nozzles and sprayers to get in all the nooks and crannies of a truck. And when you can drive through that in 3 minutes, instead of spending 45 minutes and maybe get 50% of the truck washed, those are the type of things we're gonna work with you to analyze, because that's an alternate fit. Maybe we don't think we can fit the equipment in the budget today, which, you could do it, but set the building up that you could do it. Or it's a hybrid system that you have an underbody flush right away and not the above ground flush to help just the chassis, because that's your main piece. You put the right wash system in, the mechanic can turn a wrench a lot easier too.
Sure.
So it goes hand in hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ritchie?
Mr. Chairman. Earlier you mentioned that, you didn't really build to add an addition on to the, facility, so like in the future, if we wanted to expand for some reason that we don't know now, that wouldn't be feasible?
No, I'm sorry, I missed.
Okay.
No, we would literally lay this facility out knowing every direction we can expand to.
Okay, so it would be
Oh,
expanded.
100%. We would, yep, it would be covered in like whatever the bearing walls or non-bearing walls. When we lay it on the site, we'll know that, we're gonna hug the north side or, whatever, and then the expansion's gonna be to that. All that would be known, yep.
Okay, I must have misunderstood. Also, I got one curious question on this, handout you gave, there's like an exercise room in here.
Yep.
What does that have to do with our?
Well, it's got a lot to do with that. We actually got into numbers with on workman comps claims. and how much revenue counties and municipalities are losing on workman comp claims. And also, believe it or not, fitness rooms, I don't know how the county's insured, but there's different insurance rates that you can say if you have a fitness room available to employees. A lot of these fitness rooms that we're doing in newer facilities for municipalities, they're joint fitness rooms that other individuals within the county can use. They're not standalone just to the highway. So that, really the fitness room is to kind of trigger that conversation of, why is it in there? Because it potentially could be a dollar savings of things you're not even thinking about. But those are things we don't put in without your part of the programming and feedback. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Crook, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, you're basing this on, a 24,000 square foot building?
Correct.
Period.
Yeah, cause that's what was given to us, correct.
Okay. And there would be no room, to expand that
Oh,
with our budget?
no, in your budget, you could expand it. What I'm saying is the if you could slide, but at the 24,000 square foot footprint,
I think the slide with the aerial image, I think is what it said.
you have, even with contingency factored in there.
Am I going the wrong way?
No, you're going right.
There it is.
Oh, no, I was looking for the cost sheet,
Oh,
John.
sorry.
Sorry, go down.
As long as that
One
works
out,
together, I
one
should
back up.
probably want.
Okay, so all.
Yeah.
So all in, the building slide, you're at $6.1 to $6.6 million for the 21,000 square foot building.
For the 24?
24, I'm sorry. So you have room, if you wanna max it out to 7 million, you have room to do that. That's what I was saying, we do alternates to make sure you get beyond that, you know. We would literally, you'd wanna lay this out efficiency for vehicles. It might be 27,000 square feet to fit in 2 extra plow, you know what I mean? You'd wanna get into that package unit.
The 24,000 square feet is a starting point, and then that was the RFP gave that parameter without us having done any work in terms of looking at what you have. So, yeah, it looks like, I mean,
So I don't
there's
think
a little room to grow.
24,000 square feet is the stuck on number.
I think that was part of the original
Our
study.
starting point, so
Yeah.
we needed to start somewhere, so that's where that.
Yeah.
So, just
Yeah.
off the top of your head then, with 7 mil, what would you say guesstimate that, how many?
I mean, 27, 28, I'd be guessing, because like I said, maybe there's other avenues that, there's sections of areas we can reuse, you know, I mean, my point was to show you that you're starting at a very good point. Most are starting where they can't afford what they've been asked for to start with. Yeah.
I believe in your presentation up there, you had listed that in-floor heating is your preference. Did I catch that correctly?
Floor heating?
No, I wouldn't say the preference, it's something we look at.
Okay.
Depending on the area, you know, mechanics areas, certain areas lead to that. I can tell you, our studies of an envelope, kind of creating the right envelope for snowplow trucks, is heating the entire mass around, where I'm heating the concrete walls, I'm heating the floor, I'm heating the joists. So when that vehicle's out plowing and comes back in, the whole mass changes and cleans that envelope, okay? Same thing with where that wash bay is. These buildings need minimum exhaust, okay? So what we do is the minimum exhaust is in the area of the building that gets the wettest, the wash bay. So we create the heavy exhaust coming through the wash bay, so you're always bringing in warm, fresh air across all the spaces and out the wash bay to help dry it. So there's all little things we'll work with you to kind of take advantage of the systems that have to go in by code. But the in-floor heat, those are things we look at based on the systems, the type of systems we put in the building for the mechanical system.
And then what type of a structure would you recommend for this type of area, and also what type of a roof would you put on this?
Yeah, so, our preference and what this is costed at is, concrete floor, precast tilt up concrete walls, bar joists spanning, and we work with you, whether it's a low sloped roof with a EPDM membrane, or even a TPO membrane, or if you wanted to go to some standing seam type roof. But there again, we're dealing with snows and avalanches on roofs, so it's really working with what you want the best. 90% of them are low slope EPDM membrane roofs. But we go to the higher EPDM membrane, so you're getting like a 50-year roof on the system.
And fully adhered,
Yeah.
as opposed to a ballasted roof. The ballasted roofs you don't see much around anymore, for various reasons. But the fully adhered membrane roofs are probably the majority of what we do.
Any other questions? Not being heard. So, we can move on, right? Thank you for presenting.
Well, no, thank you, like I said, thank you for your time. A lot of work we know goes into getting this in big decisions. We're literally here as a resource to make sure you feel the best decision for the county possible. We're just a resource trying to help you through that process. Cause anytime you're spending money, it's not a good, easy decision. Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks very much.
Justin, you want to put some input on this, what do you think about it, what you,
They need to take the flash drive.
Yeah.
Here's one that's left.
Oh.
Oh, thank you.
That's got all the secret stuff.
Have a great night.
Go ahead, Justin, give us a little input, what you think as well.
So I've done some research on these two firms. They presented well, I thought, one a little better than the other. One has a very good background, one has more of a public works, facilities, you know, they're doing buildings, but not doing highway facilities, I guess. They have some, they're doing the one in Dunn County, I think he said, I can't finish, I can tell you exactly where they're doing it. You know, I hope you guys consider what we got going on out there. So they're talking 24,000 square feet. Sounds great. What we're dealing with out right there right now, our power trucks, I think it's like 100 by 90, so you got 9,000 square. So it's a big difference. It's quite a bit significant. You know, whether they do, or they're gonna do in-floor heat, or they're gonna do overhead, you know, that's besides the point. We need the building anyway. You know, obviously it takes you and the community and everybody gotta come together. But if you take the one firm versus the other, like I said, they're both great. But one has quite the background of facilities that they've done, and they've got quite a long career of doing it. I guess where I'm at with it is we got two goods, we don't have two bads, we got one that's better. As far as we move forward, we all have to work together, whether it's just ad hoc or the full board or the highway department committee, everybody, doesn't matter. We gotta come together, we gotta work together. That's the big thing that most companies do, they need to be a team, they need to work together. So this is, you know, this is a stepping stone of where we gotta move forward. As far as we start with this, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we add on, we move forward. We make our facilities nice. Big thing for our facility right now, and I've said it before, you guys can come up and you can see what we got going on anytime, give me a call. Doesn't matter if I'm not there, there's other people that can show you exactly what's going on. It's also between response time, inefficiency. The last firm was heavy on efficiency. We are extremely inefficient because of our facility. Our shop has state plow trucks parked in it 24/7 unless they're on the roads. everyone, mechanics, or general laborers who are assisting in the shop. We pull them trucks out, sit outside. Last week, we were close to below zero, like the trucks do. They sat outside and ran, because if they don't run, they possibly may not start because it's cold. So we're wasting money there. There's a lot of factors that add up to this building potentially happening. So, with you guys making a decision on a firm, whether you go for it tonight or not, we need to keep moving forward on this. And that's what I got for you. I don't know if you guys want my opinion on which firm or not.
Yes, please.
I think CUNY is probably our number one. They've got quite an extensive background. They're great. Cedar's great too, but I think CUNY is probably the one for us. That's my opinion.
What we're talking about right now is just purely storage and a wash bay, right? None of this other frills and stuff they throw on to make them look good.
Correct. This is for our plow trucks, so essentially, like I said, you were out there and seeing what was going on. What this will do is, the way they're gonna set this building up and the way we need to work together on is, these trucks will come in with their plows on, in the wintertime, right? They'll be able to back out, get loaded out to the county road. In the summertime, the plows are gonna be sitting around the yard just looking nasty and in the elements. They're gonna sit inside the shop, in front of the truck, sanders gonna be stacked in front of the plow. So it's out of sight, out of mind, it's indoors, it's cleaned up, you get longevity. Same thing with a wash bay. When it comes underneath, you're gonna have longevity of getting the truck clean underneath. We've got that.
I thought it was also represented where they can drop their wings right there too. You pull the truck in, drop your front plow and wings. That would be.
I don't know about the wing.
I thought it was in the white proposal, but that's here nor there.
Yeah, that I'm not sure, man, I can't elaborate on that, but as far as the truck itself, they talked about the angle parking and you're gonna have the center open. Sounds like wasted space, but you take 18 trucks, you angle park them, you can fit, say, 9 on each side. You pull them straight in a line, you're gonna have more garage doors and you're actually not gonna stack as much. And then you're still inefficient, because say you got, just for instance, say you got 4 parked up in the rows. You gotta get the 2 middles out. We try to keep the same individual in the truck, they know the truck. Every truck, depending on the years, has different controls, so you try to keep them familiar. There's a lot going on with their plow. So they gotta get in one of the 2 trucks in the middle. You're firing up a truck just to get that middle truck out, and they're gonna pull it back in. There's a waste of time there. So as far as the angle parking, you can always park something in the middle, as long as you know it's gonna start the next day. But I mean, that's what I got. I mean, if you guys got any questions, if you guys wanna call, come out the highway department, you guys wanna take a walk through. Not just the main building, we can walk through the other little sheds we got sitting there. I know I talked to Phil there, waiting for, see when they wanna come out. Not just him, anybody, we can walk through. It's easier said than done, John, Jerry, Phil, Lois, yeah, you were out there, and then we had Jim. I can tell you all day what it looks like. But until you guys actually see physically what we got going on, you can't understand. I can tell you, I can scream it up on top of my lungs, but until you come out there and actually physically see what's going on out there, then you'll understand.
Thank you, Justin.
All good night.
Thanks. So, does the board want to discuss the firms anymore as far as which one which? Or would we could ask for a motion to pick a firm and keep moving forward? Motion by Mr. Kudo.
Who's got the floor? He's gotta make the motion. Before he can speak.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I move that, we take the recommendation of Justin and also from what we saw tonight and go with Cooney Architects.
Mr. Kudo's motion, second by Alec Hampton. Did you put in your motion to have someone authorized to enter into the contract agreement?
Who did you have in mind? you. And then we have
Sure.
the chairman. The chairman
They've got the finger to point to me, I guess.
go into,
Is that in your motion?
for the chairman to proceed with going to secure their services.
Alex, you good with that? Any other more questions? If not? Get it? Yep. We can vote on it. I know, Scotty. 18 yes, passed by majority. Discussion, possible motion. Approval of the 2025 forestry work plan. Ashley.
Okay, thank you. So, Jared had family commitments tonight, so he asked if I would present on the annual work plan. This has already gone through the forestry committee, so Phil, if you'd like to jump in where I'm missing things, please do. So chapter 28 of the state statutes require that the annual work plan be passed by the county board in order to apply for a grant that reimburses up to 50% of the forest administrator's salary and benefits. So that's why you have this in front of you today. Of note, recently, Ashley Goodis onboarded John Smith as our forestry technician. He is settling in nicely and seems to be a great fit for the department, bringing lots of knowledge and experience with him. So I'll try to scroll through and talk at the same time. A couple things that the forest administrator asked that I highlight would be under our annual DNR time standards. Just to point out that the DNR provides a minimum of 2,129 hours per year of assistance. Historically, the DNR has met or exceeded these time standards each year, and these hours are needed by Rusk County to address the ever-increasing workload on the county forest. Derek Jacobson is who usually helps us out from the DNR. Most of you have probably met him. Under timber sale planning and establishment, the goal is to develop a regulated harvest in which the same number of acres or the same volume of wood could be harvested each year in perpetuity. So under our long-term harvest goals, the forest administrator would like me to point out that the 15-year average in acres is 3,169 total yearly acreage. Moving to forest reconnaissance. Currently, 99.81% of all forest reconnaissance is less than 20 years old. And this is very significant, meaning that our timber, 99.81% of our timber has been cruised within the last 20 years. And that's pretty significant for the size of our human forest land. Okay, and then moving to Parks and Recreation, which is Mike Zimmer. Snowmobile trails will be maintained by local snowmobile clubs as they have been. The administration of 318.7 miles of the snowmobile program will be done by our forestry department. The existing 32 miles of ATV UTV trails are maintained through the ATV clubs, and funding has been secured to develop an additional 12 miles of ATV UTV trails in the Blue Hills. And then just a couple miscellaneous notes that he'd like highlighted. The forestry department issues firewood cutting and miscellaneous gathering permits, and this also includes Christmas tree permits. So just a plug for that, if you guys didn't know, you can cut your own Christmas tree off of our county forest land. You just have to get a permit from Heidi. And then unfortunately, there's no new news on the carbon credits. So, I just want to remind you guys again, for all of you that are new to the board, in 2022 we did have record timber sales. 2023 was a great year as well. 2024 the wood markets continue to be very depressed, but Jared does anticipate hitting revenue goals in 2024 and in 2025. But he does, in his estimation over the last, I think, 4 years, he said wood markets have come down in half, so.
So I got the motion by Mr. Miller and
So
second.
we gotta make the motion to approve it though. Who's ever making the motion has to make the motion.
Oh, any other questions? If not, we can vote on it. Passed by the majority. Number two, determining the funding source for the stairs removed on County W. Let's do that.
Well, I can. So, last month you guys had approved removing the stairs, at County Highway W at Horseshoe Lake Road, but there was no funding source that was approved, and so, we're just back here to get you guys to approve a funding source. My recommendation would be to put it towards highway maintenance, even though it really wasn't in their original budget plan. We think that that's the most appropriate place to put it, but just given the circumstance of how it came about and got approved, we just didn't get that funding source in originally.
Any questions?
Do you know how much it's gonna cost? It's, between $1,200 and $1,300.
Yeah, it was like 12 and change.
And it's already done.
Yeah.
Oh, do they have it in their budget? Is there gonna be an issue there?
At this point, yes, but. Yeah.
Otherwise, what's in contingency?
There's still plenty of funding in contingency. It's just that, we thought that the highway maintenance would be the most appropriate. I mean, and if we need to, we can transfer money out of contingency to the highway maintenance, but, because that's where it has to be reported as an expense for our annual financial report with the state.
Alright, I make the motion to, take the money out of highway maintenance budget.
Second by Mr. Russell. Any more questions?
The highway maintenance fund.
Highway maintenance fund. Any other questions? None being heard, we can vote. Passed by majority. Passed by majority. Okay, resolution. Motion and second. I have it on the floor.
Just say it'd be appropriate to.
Be appropriate for the motion on the floor of the child support specialist one and child support two specialists. Ashley, yeah.
Does anybody have any questions after reviewing it? It's, pretty self-explanatory, so I told Jeremy I would help him out today for this, but typically what we've done in the past is when a child support specialist one has moved to a child support specialist two, after they receive those 2 years of service, they move up to that number 2 position, and so that's just what they're doing here, is adjusting that wage from $20.91 per hour to $21.06 per hour, which is less than a $500 fiscal impact. And that would be effective January 1st, 2025.
Do they have different duties?
Nope, it's the same exact job description, and we have a couple of these outlying, from when the wage study was implemented, there's a couple of these outlying positions where when they hit so many years of service, essentially they get to move up, a grade, or move up a step. So, we should really clean that up at some point, but to keep up with what we've been doing in the past, that's why they're coming forward with this, with the hopes that before this would happen again, we would clean this up in a couple of our different departments that we have this. So the only difference is that, years of service.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, we can vote on it. by the majority. Entertain another motion for IT team lead job description. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Russell, is there a second? Second by Mr. Meyer. Ashley.
Okay, so this one, we had an opening in our IT department, for the IT director had left. So when the IT department went under the facilities manager went underneath the facilities manager because the facilities manager position was created and the whole IT department went under that in June of 2022. The job description was never updated to accurately reflect those duties and responsibilities after that happened. So we took this opportunity to update the job description. So back in June of 2022, after this had happened and then the wage study was implemented with Carlson Detman, the correct job description qualification was sent to Carlson Detman. So the position was graded correctly on our wage scale. So all I did is I took that job description qualification, so that JVQ, and created the job description. And so that's what you can see is attached. So it's created with the duties of what was actually graded. So nothing would need to be regraded on the scale because that would still be appropriate. This went to personnel committee. We talked about it a little bit and decided the title should be changed to an IT team lead. So actually when it was graded with Carlson Detman, they had recommended, I think, it be called an IT supervisor just because of some of the duties, and not that IT director. After talking through it with personnel, we landed on IT team lead, and it would be an hourly position, so no longer a salary position, which is also how it was graded with Carlson Detman too, is that it should be hourly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the name is proposed to be changed to IT specialist, shouldn't we also correct that under purpose of position? The first sentence and, well, the last sentence.
Yeah, I think this was the original resolution that went to personnel, and then they changed that to the IT team lead.
Just so that we get that cleaned up.
Yeah.
So. Thank you.
Thank you. There are two other employees in that department, am I correct?
Yes.
Have any of those have interest in moving that?
This right now isn't to post the position yet, so we don't have it posted or anything yet. That we will have to discuss back, depending on what we do with the vacancies of positions if we take this back to personnel. So nothing with this has been posted yet or anything, but at that time, or maybe even before we posted it externally, we could post it internally just for those.
Okay, and if one moved up, would we have to hire a third one again?
That's where I think we're looking at in personnel to go through the process of looking at each person that we hire. So we would probably then, if we decided to fill this position, if the committees had decided to fill that, and then we fill that internally, we would look at that position then and if we would fill that or not.
Any other questions? If not, you can vote. Passed by the majority. Number 5, entertain motion for policy and probate to use the excessive force and to enforce applicable state and local laws prohibiting physical barriering entrances, exits for non-violent civil rights demonstrations. Motion by Mr. Willingham, second by Mr. Goodis.
So Emily is still here from the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. The next 5 resolutions are all part of applying for the CDBG planning grant. I will say that we met with the sheriff's office on this. They did have some questions, but after talking it through with Northwest Regional Planning, Sheldon, Rich Summerfield as well, they were okay adding the highlighted sentence in your packet here. How it was described to me is this is something that they're already doing. If they weren't doing this, they would be violating people's rights, which we don't do here. It was simply a matter of putting it in writing in the policy. Also, these resolutions all went through the zoning committee, so Mr. Willingham, please jump in where I can. Yep.
Is there any other questions on this one? If not, vote on it. Passed by a majority. Number 6, Wisconsin, or entertain a motion for this, Wisconsin Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan for Community Development Block Grant CDBG Program. Motion by Mr. Willingham, second by Mr. Russell. Is there any, or is it?
Other way around.
The other way around. Motion by Mr. Russell, second by Mr. Willingham. Any other questions on this? None being heard, we can vote. Passed by the majority. Number 7, entertain a motion to adopt a citizen participation plan. Motion by Mr. Willingham, second by Mr. Moore. Is there any questions? None being heard, vote.
Reading.
Passed by the majority. Number 8, authorizing resolutions to submit a county development block grant CDBG application. Motion by Mr. Willingham and second by Mr. Russell. Any questions? None being heard, we can vote. Passed by the majority. Number 9, entertain a motion to authorizing resolution to commit matching funds certifications of matching funds secured.
Is a beer.
Motion by Mr. Russell, second by Mr. Coggins. Anybody got questions? And Mrs. Fox.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means.
Who's lead on that?
So it's identifying that the county has the money to match the grant, and that we are identifying what that funding source would be, which is the mining reuse fund.
Any other questions? If not, we can vote. Passed by the majority. Number 10, entertain a motion to reassign victim witness hours in Sheriff's Department to District Attorney office. And Somebody make a motion? Everybody know what it is. Motion by Mr. Russell, seconded by Mr. Goodis. And I believe Crystal. You, Crystal?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you explain or?
So basically, victim witness services is something that is required by statute for us to provide within the district attorney's office. For many, many years, we've been fortunate to have that position be a split position where the victim witness coordinator was under state reimbursed statute requirements in the DA's office for 5 hours per day and worked under a VOCA grant in the sheriff's office for 3 hours a day. That was a separate grant, the hours were completely separate, but it did provide us flexibility in covering jury trials and things where we needed to provide a continuum of having the same person available for those services. This year, VOCA grant funding was drastically cut. It went down from 31,000 and change down to about 13,000. So as a result of that, the hours that had been previously assigned to the sheriff's office, that money in that grant will be expended by our calculations by the end of February. So what the proposal is to reassign Nancy Hannes in that position, instead of being a split position, having her fully expend that grant time in the sheriff's office, so that that position, we have fully maximized the funding there, and then switching her from the 5 hours in the district attorney's office to 7.75 hours. By having a clean split, that'll allow us to have those full-time hours in the DA's office be eligible for the state reimbursement. It is one of those things where we don't get a set amount ahead of time like a grant. It is reimbursed after the fact. Over the last 3 years, we've been averaging 48% reimbursement. Early 2024, our first half was actually at 58%. So in the reallocation of the budget, we budgeted at 50%, and it would end up being a wash as far as any change in levy amount. But it is something that we are required to provide. It's just that we're only eligible for the state reimbursement if we do it under her specific. Anyone have any questions?
Do I understand or not understand? Do you have any questions? Mr. Willingham?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to add some information about the Victim of Crime Act budget situation. Huge cutbacks in that program nationwide, and a lot of those funds were used to support domestic abuse shelters and advocacy programs for domestic abuse and sexual violence issues. It's my understanding that there's both some corrective legislation being presented at the federal level, but also at the state level, to at least supplement some of those funds. So if you see your local legislator or are so inclined to communicate with your local legislator, please do, and encourage them to support that legislation. It's a huge issue in our local domestic abuse program that serves Rusk, Barron, Price, and Washburn County. Had their funding cut by almost 70% in that particular program, and so that was a big hit, and we worry that people are going to die because of the lack of services. So really encourage you to consider that in your proposals, or if you contact your legislators. And this program suffered as well from that. So.
I think it embraced some. Lost over 80% total.
Yeah.
Funding.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
I'll just clarify on top of what Crystal said. So moving the hours all to the district attorney's office. So there's a couple parts to this resolution. I just want to make sure that you guys are all clear on. So moving all of the hours to the district attorney's office out of the sheriff's office once that VOCA grant is expended. So then the DA's office will have the full personnel oversight of this position. Also, at the bottom of the resolution, along with this, you are also approving an amendment to the 2025 budget. So I just want to be clear that you're kind of doing two things here. There's a personnel aspect and there's also the fiscal aspect.
So that requires 2/3 majority.
For a budget amendment, correct.
Mr. Undershoot.
By the amendment to the budget, you're just talking about moving it from this line to this line. There's no additional money.
Correct, that Jamie has the fiscal, yep. Yep.
Just a paper stuff. Any other questions or comments? If not, we can vote. Passed by a majority. Thank you, Crystal. Moving 11, entertain a motion to eliminate section 2-296 and amend section 8.5 of the general code of Rusk County, Wisconsin regarding the animal shelter operations. Motion by Mr. Kudo and a second by Mr. Wedwick, and I think you can go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, as you all know, the city of Ladysmith is pulling out of the animal shelter financially, and there's no longer an operating agreement. So we have to amend, by eliminating section 2-96, you see that right there, the Joint Animal Control Board. There's no longer a Joint Animal Control Board starting January 1. So all this does is get our section corrected, so this eliminates that. And then the other part is to amend section 8-5 for the Animal Shelter Board. And all it is keeping what's already in there, but it's adding 8 and 9, that the Oversight Committee of the Animal Shelter Manager and the Rusk County Humane Society, or officer I should say, is the Animal Shelter Board. And number 9, right now, the Joint Animal Control Board is 3 county board members and 2 city reps, and again, the city is pulling out. So this is amending it to say it will consist, the committee will consist of 5 voting members, all of whom are county board supervisors, and to appoint them will be in the normal way. It'll have to go through the committee on committees.
Any questions? Does everybody understand kind of what's going on there? No questions? Okay, Mr. Myers.
I'm sneaky. So just for thought is, it would have to be changed now, I'm assuming, but I'm almost wondering if this committee should be absolved by another committee. Then it's no longer a joint venture with the city.
Like fall under emergency services.
Oh, I don't know where the right fit is, but,
But
maybe this would be an opportunity to, or is that something that should be done later?
well, I guess that would be redrafting the entire resolution, going through, finding out what those codes are and doing that. I don't think that would be a good use of time tonight. So
No,
I'm not
that's
saying
fine.
that's not a bad idea, but, we need to get rid of the city as to those 2 issues. So if that's the case, bring that back to either animal control and have them request that, or.
That wouldn't fall under committee on committees when they wouldn't have that power when they designated the members for this committee.
You would have to,
come back to the board.
because then you have to change the ordinance to add the powers and duties of this committee to whatever committee you want.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, this takes place January 1.
Correct.
Correct. So
Correct.
current board stays the way it is until January 1.
Correct.
For 1 more meeting.
Mr. Kudo.
So, I'm just curious, I'm wondering if the way this is stated is basically we do not have the option that the committee will consist of 5 county supervisors.
What? Yes.
Well, that's what it says on line
Number 9.
line 9 on
Right.
page 2.
So what I'm wondering is that would we like to perhaps branch out a little bit and possibly have like maybe somebody from the fracas on there, or a member of the public?
We've already discussed that. Fracas is not. Fracas has a voice in each meeting because they report. So there's always a fracas report and they can express their opinions on that.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out. Alright, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, you can vote on it. Passed by the majority. Number 12, entertain a motion acknowledging the investment of the sales revenue from city-owned economic development property to jointly managed economic development property for the construction of 20,000 square feet building to connect the 501 Valley Road and the 1402 Jazz Road. A motion by Mr. Coggins, second by Mr. Undershoots. Brian, got anything to fill in on this?
Yeah, this is just to clean up what's already taken place, actually. In February of this year, the Joint Management Committee had approved the city paying for the design of an infill building for to connect Jez and Dowdy Road buildings. They had that all done, and then in September, we approved the city going ahead and building that using money that they had received from the sale of a city-owned building, the former Weather Shield screen plant on Dowdy Road. Henry Rifles has purchased that building from the city to expand their business. In doing that, they're displacing Indec, who currently rents that building for warehouse space of their finished products. The Jez Dowdy building combined with the infill will be it will be 60,000 square feet. That's roughly the same size of the building that they are being displaced from. So they have already agreed to rent that building from joint management. And so this is no money, this is no cost to the county. And the city has offered to pay all the utilities for those buildings during the construction process until it is complete. Anticipated completion is end of June of 25. Then Indec would begin to rent that building at the end of June. They would be moving their inventory into that. They would be moving at that time. And they would pay, their rent at that time would be just the cost of the utilities as a way of offering them ease of transition, because they're losing their space through no fault of their own. And then beginning January 1 of 26, then they would pay the current rate. Don't ask me what that is at the moment, I don't have that in memory, but anyway, that building would be in the black.
So they need 60,000 square feet for their business, did I hear that right? So
That's the size of the building that they are renting right now.
Building that.
From the city.
Structure to combine those other two buildings that will give them 60,000 square feet.
Correct. The Jez building is 20,000, the Dowdy Road building is 20,000, the infill building, 20,000, so it'd be a 60,000 square foot.
Ms. Paulus?
So this newer building that they're going to build, that is a warehouse, or is that the use of it, or?
Yes, I mean, it could be used for manufacturing if that were the wishes of the tenant. There's gonna be electrical service for that type of thing, if that were to happen, but currently, Indec would make use of that whole building.
Mr. Kudo.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, when they start paying rent, 26, you said?
They will cover all utilities at the end of the construction, which is anticipated the end of June of 25.
Okay.
25, the next 6 months until the 1st of January, they would pay all utilities. Beginning January 1, 26, they would pay the full rent.
So is this still going to be, a co-owned?
Yes. It would be a joint, it would be a jointly owned
So whatever
building.
proceeds that we get from rent then is split 50-50?
Currently, whatever is in the black, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, but that goes to paying any loans that are that are in arrears for the mining fund,
Yeah,
correct?
so the operating losses and the debt service, right now, the joint management properties owe the mining fund just under $1 million.
So when any building that's in the black, that money goes towards paying that deficit.
So the city will not realize anything until that debt gets paid off?
Correct. Is that, that's my understanding.
And then after that point, then what? Did you establish that yet or not? Once that debt is paid off, then is that the rent proceeds, will that be a 50-50 split or?
We'll all be dead by then.
Look out for a younger
Yes.
kid. Taking our place.
That's how the operating agreement is set up.
It is. It's in black and white. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, following up on that, it seems like when we have these joint things, the county ends up paying all the maintenance and everything else and repairs and everything. Is that going to be the same thing with this?
Currently, the way it's set up, the county maintenance does take care of repairs. However, they build the joint managed buildings, and then the maintenance department is reimbursed through the revenue from the buildings.
And the revenue from this should cover all that, because we've been depleting our mining fund for a lot of that.
Right. That's what I just said a little bit ago, that any revenues in the black go towards repaying the mining fund.
But will it be in the black?
Yes.
That's the idea, yeah.
Right.
That's the idea, but reality?
I don't think Brian can, magically answer what's gonna happen in the future on everything.
And we'll all be dead.
Mr. Willingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At least I'll be dead. I think what one of the pluses here is, well, two pluses really. If the city is going to use the proceeds of selling a building that they own to build this building, but it will become a part of the other two buildings, and the three together will be jointly owned, correct?
Correct.
So they're gonna build the building, but we will own half of it. But the big plus is the additional jobs that will be created by, Henry Arms expanding their operations here. They are a really top-notch employer, and, it's been a real plus for this community, for the county and the city as well. So I think, in spite of some of our headbutting over time with some city projects, I think this is one that the county's gonna come out of very well on. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we can vote on it. Passed by the majority. Closed session, I need a motion and a second, go into closed session. Motion by Mr. Kudo, second by Mr. Moore. Decide PHD Charity Incorporated to acquire the county-owned land pursuant to Wisconsin Stat 19.85, Paragraph 1, E. Deliberating and negotiating the purchase of public property, the investing of public funds, and conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Motion by Mr. Cruz, second by Mr. Moore. We can vote now, go into closed session. by the majority, we are now in closed session.
So a motion was made to accept the supplemental proposal offer from HCA Charities to purchase parcel number 246-03658-005 and parcel number 246-03560-0000, lying west of 10th Street, contingent on buyer acknowledgement of road and road right-of-way on parcel 246-03658-0005 as not being part of the sale, and authorize the board chair to negotiate an amended purchase price based on pro rata square footage.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, the second closed session we will not be going into, no need for it. Number 3.
Bingo.
Entertain a motion to go into closed session. Motion by Mr. Tito, second by Mr. Russell. To consider offer from the city of Ladysmith to acquire jointly owned industrial buildings and land pursuant to Wisconsin Stat 1948 501 E, deliberated and negotiated purchase of public property, the investigating of the public funds and or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons required in closed session. Vote now in closed session. Satisfied majority in closed session.
Call somebody, yeah, just wait. I mean, that's, again, it's your floor, ask for the floor and talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I believe, from what I'm hearing there, so it's a general consensus of the board that we not pursue this evening, and that we would consider having a couple representatives deal with the city on the negotiating on the sale of these properties. So I'd like to know who would like to volunteer to do this, I guess I would, so that we can make a motion. Do it.
He's asking who would like to negotiate on the board's behalf with the city.
I should be involved with it.
I would recommend Brian and John, because that's joint management. And these are joint management buildings.
So, and no problems. If you get into a point where there would be 3 members of the committee, then you are negotiating in open session with the city. I guess my thought would be that you would have 1 or 2 people from the board do that, see what kind of headway they can make with the city, and then either report back to this board or report back to property, once we do that headway, so that, just so this doesn't die.
Motion by Mr. Kudo to
So I motion then that Mr. Coggins and Mr. Caleb sit down with the city, can you hear me?
Yep.
Sit down with the city and negotiate, sale of these properties. And then come back to the board with their findings.
Okay, that's Mr. Kudo's motion, seconded by Mr. Biller. Any other questions or comments? If not, we vote on it. Passed by the majority. Any announcements? You want me to announce your,
It's just up to you.
everybody got a handout from, the city, it's an open house on their Linden School Apartments and Townhouses in Lady Smith Rec Center. Welcome to join them at their configured project. Open house December 20th, 4 to 8, January 7th, 8 to 1, January 10th, 10 to 3. And the address is on the bottom there.
I talked to the project manager just before this meeting, and 5 of the 7 townhouses are rented, and 13 of the 30 apartments are rented.
Oh, nice. That's a good deal. Otherwise, is there any other, announcements?
Merry Christmas and
Everybody?
Happy New Year.
Yes.
I didn't say that, but you beat me to it now, but Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody, be safe over the holiday.
The date for the next meeting?
Sometime next year.
January 28th.
January 28th? Anything else?
At 7,
Pardon?
at 7 o'clock or 6?
7 o'clock, sir. That's not an entertaining motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Russell,